Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
I stepped into the gleaming lobby of Knowles Enterprises, my heart pounding with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The polished marble floors reflected the sunlight streaming through the glass walls, and the air was filled with a faint scent of fresh flowers. I approached the reception desk, where a young woman with a warm smile greeted me. "Good morning. How can I help you?" she asked. "I'm here for the interview," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. She nodded and handed me a visitor badge. "Please take a seat in the waiting area. Someone will be with you shortly." As I walked to the waiting area, I noticed a man in a wheelchair sitting by himself. He had a calm demeanor, his eyes focused on the paperwork in his lap. I sat down a few seats away, trying to distract myself from my nerves by organizing my own documents. "Are you here for the interview too?" I ventured, hoping to break the ice. He looked up and smiled warmly. "Yes, I am. My name's Zachariah." "I'm Alessa," I replied. "Nice to meet you." Before we could continue our conversation, the door to the waiting area swung open. A woman with sharp features and an even sharper tone walked in, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Her name tag read, Clementine, HR Manager. "Good morning," she said briskly, her eyes scanning the room. They landed on Zachariah, and her expression shifted from indifference to disdain. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her voice dripping with contempt. Zachariah remained calm, meeting her gaze steadily. "I'm here for the interview," he replied. Clementine scoffed. "I don't know what you're expecting, but this isn't a place for charity cases." I felt a surge of anger on his behalf, but Zachariah's serene demeanor remained unshaken. "Everyone deserves a chance," he said simply. Clementine's eyes narrowed, but she turned to address the rest of us. "Follow me," she commanded. "I'll brief you on the interview process." We were led into a spacious conference room with large windows overlooking the city. Clementine handed out packets detailing the interview process. Her professional facade did little to mask the earlier encounter's bitterness. "Review these materials," she instructed. "I'll call you in one by one for your interviews." As I skimmed through the packet, I couldn't help but glance at Zachariah. Despite Clementine's insult, he appeared focused and composed. His resilience was admirable, and I found myself silently rooting for him. Clementine called in the first candidate, a young woman named Fiona. One by one, we each had our turn. When my name was called, I took a deep breath and entered her office. The interview began smoothly enough. Clementine asked the usual questions about my background and experience, but then she leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Why do you think you deserve this job?" she asked, her tone challenging. "I believe I have the skills and dedication that this company values," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Her smirk widened. "And yet, you think helping a man in a wheelchair makes you more qualified." I was taken aback. "I think everyone deserves respect and kindness," I said, my voice firm. Clementine's expression hardened. "This is a high-pressure job. We don't have time for sentimentality." I left her office feeling shaken but more determined than ever. As I returned to the waiting area, I saw Zachariah being called in next. I gave him an encouraging nod, which he returned with a calm smile. Minutes turned into an eternity as we waited. The other candidates exchanged nervous glances, but I found myself strangely at peace. Zachariah's calmness had a grounding effect, and I realized that regardless of the outcome, I had done my best. Finally, Clementine returned, looking more irritable than ever. "Thank you all for your time today," she said curtly. "We will notify the successful candidate in due course." Before she could dismiss us, Zachariah spoke up. "Actually, I'd like to address the group." Clementine's eyes widened in shock. "Excuse me, who do you think you are?" Zachariah's calm demeanor never wavered. "I think it's time for some introductions," he said, looking directly at her. "My name is Zachariah Knowles. I am the CEO of this company." Gasps filled the room. Clementine's face drained of color, her confident facade crumbling. You're the CEO, she stammered. Yes, Zakaria confirmed. And I've been assessing not just the candidates, but also the integrity of our hiring process. Clementine's eyes darted around the room, seeking support but finding none. Sir, I didn't know. That's precisely the problem. Zakaria interrupted. You judged me based on appearances and treated me with disdain. Imagine how many qualified individuals you've turned away because of your biases. He turned to us, the candidates, his voice softening. At Knowles Enterprises, we value respect, integrity, and fairness. Those who embody these values are the ones we want to join our team. Clementine's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. I can explain, she finally managed. Zakaria shook his head. There's no explanation that can justify your actions. Effective immediately, you are relieved of your duties. Clementine's face twisted in a mix of shock and anger, but she knew better than to argue. As she was escorted out, I couldn't help but feel a sense of justice being served. Zakaria addressed us again, his tone warm. I apologize for the unprofessional behavior you witnessed today. This is not how we conduct business. He turned to me. Alesha, your compassion and integrity did not go unnoticed. You exemplify the qualities we seek in our employees. A wave of relief washed over me. Thank you, Mr. Knowles. Please call me Zakaria, he said with a smile. And I would like to offer you the position of HR manager. I believe you will bring the empathy and fairness that this role requires. Tears of joy welled up in my eyes. I don't know what to say. Say yes, he replied simply. Yes, I said, my voice trembling with emotion. Yes, I accept. As I stepped out of the conference room, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. This was more than just a job. It was an opportunity to make a difference. The following day, I arrived at Knowles Enterprises with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The events of the previous day still felt surreal. I could hardly believe I had been offered the position of HR manager by Zakaria Knowles himself. Today was my first day, and I was determined to prove my worth. As I entered the building, the receptionist greeted me warmly. Good morning, Alesha. Mr. Knowles is expecting you. I nodded, feeling a surge of confidence. Thank you. I made my way to the executive floor, where Zakaria's office was located. The plush carpet muffled my footsteps as I walked down the hallway, the walls adorned with awards and commendations. I reached his office and knocked gently. Come in, came Zakaria's calm voice. I entered to find him seated behind a massive oak desk, his wheelchair positioned comfortably. He looked up and smiled. Good morning, Alesha. Please have a seat. Good morning, Zakaria, I replied, taking the offered chair. I hope you're ready for a busy day, he said, his eyes twinkling with amusement. There are a few things we need to discuss. I nodded eagerly. Absolutely, I'm ready to get started. Zakaria leaned back, folding his hands. First, let's talk about the hiring process. Yesterday's incident highlighted some serious flaws. I want to ensure our practices are inclusive and fair. Your first task will be to review our current procedures and suggest improvements. Of course, I said, jotting down notes. I'll get started right away. He handed me a folder. This contains the current guidelines and some recent applications. Take a look and see what needs changing. I took the folder, feeling the weight of responsibility. I won't let you down. I know you won't, Zakaria replied with a reassuring smile. Now, there's one more thing. We have a team meeting this afternoon. I'd like you to join us and introduce yourself. I'd be honored, I said, my heart racing at the prospect. Hours later, I found myself in the large conference room, surrounded by department heads and senior staff. The room buzzed with chatter, but it fell silent as Zakaria wheeled himself to the front. Good afternoon, everyone, he began, his voice commanding attention. "I'd like to introduce Alessia, our new HR manager. She will be leading our efforts to improve our hiring practices and ensure we foster an inclusive workplace." I stood up, nerves tingling. "Thank you, Zachariah. It's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to working with all of you to make Knowles Enterprises a place where everyone feels valued and respected." As I spoke, I noticed a few skeptical glances, but most of the team seemed welcoming. One hand shot up, a middle-aged man with a stern expression. "Yes," I acknowledged him. "I'm Carl from Finance," he said. "What changes do you plan to implement?" I took a deep breath. "I'll start by reviewing our current practices. I want to ensure we eliminate any biases and create a fair process for all candidates. This includes training for all hiring managers on diversity and inclusion." Carl nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Sounds promising. I hope it works out." The meeting continued, with Zachariah outlining the company's strategic goals and various departments providing updates. I listened intently, absorbing as much information as possible. After the meeting, Zachariah approached me. "You did well, Alessia. Change won't be easy, but with your dedication, I'm confident we'll succeed." "Thank you," I replied, grateful for his support. As I returned to my office, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The skeptical glances, the probing questions. It was clear that not everyone was on board with the changes, but I was determined to prove myself and make a positive impact. Later that afternoon, while reviewing the documents Zachariah had given me, I found a note tucked inside the folder. It was written in a hurried scrawl. "Watch out for those who resist change. Some have their own agendas." A chill ran down my spine. Who could have left this note? And what exactly were they warning me about? Just then, my office phone rang, startling me. "Alessia, it's Zachariah. Can you come to my office? There's something we need to discuss." "Of course, I'll be right there," I replied, quickly gathering my notes. As I walked to his office, my mind raced with questions. What could Zachariah want to discuss? And who had left that mysterious note? I knocked on his door, my heart pounding with anticipation. "Come in," Zachariah called. I entered, finding him deep in thought. "Is everything okay?" I asked. He looked up, his expression serious. "Alessia, we've received a troubling report. It seems there are some individuals within the company who are resistant to the changes we're implementing. I need you to keep an eye out and report any suspicious behavior." My mind flashed back to the note. "I understand. I'll be vigilant." "Good," Zachariah said. "We need to ensure that Knowles Enterprises remains a place of integrity and respect. I'm counting on you." "I won't let you down," I promised, feeling the weight of the challenge ahead. The following morning, the office was abuzz with whispers and sideways glances. The atmosphere had shifted since Zachariah's revelation, and everyone seemed to be walking on eggshells. I spent the early hours reviewing the company's hiring practices, taking meticulous notes on the areas needing improvement. My mind kept drifting back to the mysterious note and Zachariah's warning. Midway through the morning, I received a message from Zachariah. "Meeting in conference room B at 11 a.m. Critical updates. Be prompt." I glanced at the clock. It was 10:45. I gathered my notes and made my way to the conference room, my curiosity piqued. The room was already filling up with department heads and senior staff, their expressions tense and expectant. Zachariah wheeled himself to the front, his presence commanding attention. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," he began. "Recent events have highlighted some significant issues within our organization, particularly within our hiring processes." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "We've conducted an internal review and identified several breaches of protocol and unethical behavior. This is unacceptable and goes against everything Knowles Enterprises stands for." A murmur spread through the room. Carl from Finance raised his hand. "What kind of breaches are we talking about?" Zakaria's gaze was steely. We've uncovered instances of bias and discrimination, similar to what we witnessed during the recent interview process. This includes hiring decisions based on personal prejudices rather than qualifications and merit. The room fell silent. I could see the realization dawning on many faces. Zakaria continued, effective immediately, we will be implementing mandatory training on diversity and inclusion for all employees. Additionally, we will be revisiting past hiring decisions to ensure they were made fairly. He turned to me. Alesha, as our new HR manager, will be leading these initiatives. She has my full support and authority to make necessary changes. I stood, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on me. Thank you, Zakaria. I'm committed to creating a fair and inclusive environment where everyone is judged on their merits, not on superficial factors. Just then, the door burst open, and Clementine stormed in, her face flushed with anger. This is outrageous. You can't just accuse us of bias and discrimination without proof. Zakaria remained calm. Clementine, we have documented evidence. Your behavior during the interview process was just the tip of the iceberg. We have emails, recorded conversations, and witness testimonies. Clementine's face paled, but she didn't back down. You're ruining my career based on a few mistakes. Zakaria's expression softened, but his resolve was firm. This isn't about ruining careers. It's about holding people accountable and ensuring that our company operates with integrity. Clementine's defiance crumbled, and she sank into a chair, defeated. I didn't realize how my actions affected others. Zakaria nodded. Acknowledging your mistakes is the first step. We all have room to grow, but we must be willing to change. The tension in the room eased slightly. Zakaria addressed the group again. We will be transparent in our efforts to rectify these issues. I ask for your cooperation and commitment to making Knowles Enterprises a place we can all be proud of. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. The entire company felt the ripples of change initiated by Zakaria's bold steps. The mandatory diversity and inclusion training sessions began, and I was at the forefront, ensuring they were engaging and impactful. One morning, as I was preparing for a session, I received a message from Zakaria. Meet me in my office at 10 a.m. We have an important matter to discuss. I glanced at the clock. It was 9:45. I hurriedly gathered my notes and made my way to his office. The corridors buzzed with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Zakaria greeted me warmly. Good morning, Alesha. Please have a seat. Good morning, Zakaria, I replied, settling into a chair. What's on your mind? He handed me a document. I want you to see this. It's a proposal for a new initiative, the Integrity Program. This will include not only diversity training, but also a mentorship program, regular reviews of our hiring practices, and a whistleblower policy to ensure accountability. I scanned the document, impressed by its thoroughness. This is excellent, Zakaria. It addresses all the key areas we need to focus on. Zakaria nodded. I knew you'd see its potential. I'd like you to lead this initiative. You have the vision and the drive to make it successful. I felt a surge of pride and responsibility. I'd be honored. When do we start? Immediately, he said with a determined smile. We'll announce it at the next company meeting. The meeting was scheduled for the following day. As I stood before the gathered employees, I felt a mix of nerves and excitement. Zakaria introduced me, and I took a deep breath before speaking. Good morning, everyone. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter for Knowles Enterprises. We are launching the Integrity Program, an initiative designed to ensure fairness, respect, and accountability in all our practices. The room buzzed with interest. Carl from Finance raised his hand. What does this program entail? It includes comprehensive diversity and inclusion training, a mentorship program to support career development, regular audits of our hiring practices, and a whistleblower policy to address any issues that arise, I explained. A young woman from marketing, who I later learned was named Maya, spoke up. How will the mentorship program work? We'll pair experienced employees with newer hires to guide and support them, I said. It's about creating a supportive environment where everyone can thrive. The announcement was met with applause, and as the meeting concluded, I felt a sense of accomplishment. But I knew this was just the beginning. However, not everyone shared our enthusiasm for the changes. Clementine, who had been demoted to a lower position, was seething with resentment. Her bitterness festered, and she began plotting ways to undermine the new initiatives. She spread rumors about the integrity program, insinuating that it was a facade to cover up more serious issues within the company. She even attempted to sabotage training sessions by tampering with the presentation materials and spreading misinformation among the staff. A few weeks later, during one of our training sessions, I noticed Clementine sitting quietly at the back. I made a mental note to keep an eye on her. After the session, she approached me. "Alessa," she began hesitantly, "I wanted to apologize for my behavior. I've realized how wrong I was, and I'm committed to changing." I smiled, genuinely moved by her words but cautious. "Everyone deserves a second chance, Clementine. I'm glad you're here, and I'm here to support you." As we walked out of the training room together, I couldn't shake the feeling that her apology might be part of a larger scheme. The path ahead was clear, but it required constant vigilance. The journey towards accountability had begun, and I was determined to lead the way, despite the undercurrents of resistance. Days turned into weeks, and the company began to flourish under the new policies. Employees were more engaged and motivated, knowing their voices were heard and respected. The mentorship program proved to be a resounding success, with employees from different departments forming bonds and supporting one another's growth. One sunny afternoon, Zachariah called for another company-wide meeting. He stood at the podium, a proud smile on his face. "I want to thank everyone for embracing the integrity program. Your dedication and hard work have transformed Knowles Enterprises into a model of fairness and respect." He turned to me and continued, "Alessa, your leadership has been instrumental in this transformation. We are grateful for your vision and commitment." The room erupted in applause. I felt a swell of pride and gratitude. "Thank you, Zachariah, and thank you to everyone here. This success belongs to all of us." As the meeting concluded, I looked around the room at the smiling faces of my colleagues. The path had not been easy, but we had walked it together, united by a shared vision. Clementine approached me again, her demeanor changed. "Alessa, I truly mean it this time. Thank you for giving me a second chance. I'm committed to making things right." I smiled warmly. "I'm glad to hear that, Clementine. We all make mistakes. What matters is how we learn and grow from them." As I left the office that day, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. We had created a workplace that valued integrity and respect, and I knew that together, we could overcome any challenge.